So I'm now the chairman of Revolt with a pathway. You see, because he wants to trigger me, and I want you to acknowledge that. So I'm now Cam's boss.
Let y'all know I got 3 bricks in the car, but I'll wear it. Cam started crying, man.
So let me say it. Tomorrow, I'm dropping a diss record for 50.
Harlem is at war again. Dame Dash walks into the Breakfast Club and drops a bomb. He says he's the new chairman of Revolt, takes aim at Cameron, and promises a diss record. Minutes later, on The Art of Dialogue, he tells a story that hits Cam where it hurts. A night with Big L and a car loaded with bricks. Believe him or not, Dame just stabbed the timeline. Revolt, paid in full, and a Harlem Brotherhood turned Godfather. Tonight, we connect every claim and every clapback. Dame's bankruptcy chess moves, Cam's counters with mace, and the truth behind who's actually the boss. Stay with me. The next 5 minutes might change how you see all 3. Let's rewind to what lit the fuse. A week before this interview, 50 Cent said he'd bought the rights to Paid in Full and was turning it into a series, with Cameron on board as executive producer. That announcement raced through hip-hop media. Dame took it like a personal rerun of history. A Harlem classic he helped will now be told by his rivals. The subtext? If 50 really owns the rights, Dame's voice gets cut out of his own legend. Except Dame says that's simply impossible. He insists there are no rights to buy, because the story he lived doesn't sit in anyone's catalog waiting for a checkout counter. Before we even get to the paperwork, he drags the beef into the family lane, claiming Cam's camp tried to involve his son. That's not just business, that's blood. And in Harlem politics, blurring the line between corporation and kin is how small slights turn into generational wars.
Yeah, right. He's capping. So I talk a different language than most people. I'm a boss. So number one, there is no rights to be bought. So I knew he was trolling. And you got to remember, Cam tried to have my son come on. Well, let me ask you this. Do you think messing with people's children is all right?
Dame's point isn't just semantics, it's leverage. If nobody can actually sell a neat, bundled, paid in full story, then 50's announcement is marketing, not a deed transfer. He challenges the basics. Who could he have bought it from? Where's the industry notice? Because in Hollywood, if a deal's real, Deadline gets the ping before Instagram gets the confetti.
Do you remember 50 saying that he had a documentary about Puff with Netflix?
Yeah.
It was highly promoted. So I know he be capping. There's no rights to buy from Paid in Full. The thing there is, I was there.
And yet, the headlines were loud. Quick paper trail. On September 9th, 2025, Revolt's site said 50 now owns the Paid in Full rights and is producing a TV series with Cam as EP. The next day, iHeart's Breakfast Club blog echoed it and noted Dame's sarcastic new boss jab. Maybe those posts were premature, maybe not, but perception became the battlefield. Once fans believe a crown has changed hands, it might as well be gone unless you can snatch the story back with receipts. That's Dame's wager. If it's real, there's paper. If there's no paper, 50 and Cam are selling smoke. So chapter 1 of this war isn't about who's tougher. It's about who can define ownership in the loudest room. Dame frames this as sovereignty, not spite. If Cam became someone else's boss to make the show, Dame counters by saying no one owns what they never created. It's a clean line that plays in Harlem and online. The hustler who refuses to be written out of his own script. Now, Dame pushes the narrative past Paid in Full and straight into Cam's house. If Cam linked up with 50 for the series, Dame says the tables have flipped on TV and in real life. The flex is brutal in its simplicity. He claims a seat above Cam.
You know, this gets played tomorrow, so the announcement will be in the trades tomorrow. So I've been trying to buy Revolt, and I also just did a 25 episode deal for my podcast for Bosses Take Losses.
He doubles down later. His show Bosses Take Losses will air on Revolt, and he floats a pathway to acquire. You can hear the ambition. Own the platform that beams the message, then use it to crown yourself.
Look for my Paid in Full, the real story from people that actually did it in Harlem, and it will be on Revolt. And if things go the way I want, I should be closing, or I should be able to have this pathway to acquire. But until then, you'll see all my content. Next week, you'll see Bosses Take Losses on Revolt. Now I'm hustling on his block. I'm now Cam's boss.
Sounds airtight until you check the press. Here's how split it got. Billboard wrote that Vibe confirmed Dame as interim chairman, while Vibe's own write-up leaned into his announcement. At the same time, All hip-hop ran the CEO's denial, and OK Player and Hot New Hip Hop cited co-host Lauren LaRosa, saying Revolt PR debunked it. By this point, even aggregation sites were posting, "Is he or isn't he?" And Soap Central summarized the CEO's clarification. So what do we do with that? For our purposes, we treat it like the streets. Claims, counterclaims, and who shows real paperwork first. Dame says he's got receipts and even posted text messages hinting at a pathway. Detractors say a pathway isn't a signed deal. Our job isn't to take sides. It's to keep the receipts on screen and see who blinks. If Dame's right, Cam just woke up with a boss. If he's wrong, he just tried to Big Brother a Harlem icon with a mic check that won't cash. Bookmark this moment because it shapes everything that follows. The language Dame uses, chairman, acquisition, pathway, either becomes the trailer for a redemption arc or the setup for a spectacular walkback. Next, we go to the night that turned the temperature from corporate to criminal. Big L, a traffic stop, 3 bricks, and whether Cam really cried in that car. Here's where the story stops being corporate and turns into a Harlem morality play. Dame says it was him, a young Cameron, and Big L riding up toward the hill when he accidentally turned into a checkpoint without a license. Back then, he says, sometimes you walked, sometimes you got cuffed. What mattered was how you carried it. Dame's version is simple. He kept his composure, said he'd wear whatever came, and looked around to see who could handle pressure and who couldn't.
So I was like, yo, I think I can get out of this, but I'm just letting y'all know I got 3 bricks in the car, but I'll wear it.
That's why the next part stings different, because when Dame tells the car story, he isn't just flexing how tough he was, he's measuring Cam. The point he hammers is that real Harlem status isn't studio-made or earned on television. It's minted in moments where the wrong word brings the law down on everybody. If you believe his account, the second he mentioned what was in the car, Cam cracked. In Harlem politics, that's not an anecdote, that's a character reference. Before this, Dame already set the casting. Cam is Fredo, not Michael, the brother who wants the perks of power without the stomach for the moment of truth. He says Cam botched a hit, called him cameo, and laid out the Godfather analogy beat for beat. Power looks patient until it moves, then it moves all at once. That's not random trash talk, that's motive. He's telling you how to read what comes next.
Cam is Fredo. He's Cameo. That's his new name to me. He's Cameo. And to me, Cam going up against me is like Fredo going up against Michael Corleone.
Now roll the tape back to the part that got the internet to stop scrolling. Dame's delivery dips for half a second, like he's choosing the sharpest word, and then he throws the haymaker. Cam cried. Whether you rate that as teenage panic or a permanent stain depends on how you grade Harlem legends. But Dame's intention is obvious. He wants the audience to equate composure with kingship and emotion with exile. If Cam really shed tears in that moment, does it erase decades of work? Of course not. But in the way Harlem tells stories, a single detail can brand you for years.
Cam started crying, man.
And remember the prelude to this punch. Dame said he never hustled with Cam, questioned whether Cam ever hustled one day on a Harlem block, and framed this car night as the reason. He's stacking character evidence, not just telling a wild story. If Cam and Mace want to dismantle it, they can't just clown the revolt talk. They have to put a hole in this memory, challenge the details, the date, the location, the people who were really there. Because as long as the story stands, Dame has a street exhibit to go with his boardroom boasts. Put together, the checkpoint, the 3 bricks, and the tier line give Dame a clean through line. I stayed solid when it counted, and that's why I never hustled with Cam. He isn't asking you to like him. He's asking you to grade resumes by the ugliest moments, not the brightest lights. If you buy that grading scale, his Harlem scorecard makes sense, and the pressure shifts back to Cam and Mace to either flip the scale or flip the story. Dame keeps returning to The Godfather, not just as a metaphor, but as an operating manual. He says he studies it, quotes the exact sequence, play weak, absorb the insults, then push a button and hit the 5 families in one day. It's theatrical, sure, but it's also his explanation for why he showed up with a patch, a loose shirt, and bait for the room. He wanted the hosts and the internet to underestimate him so the reveals would land harder.
And then all of a sudden, he hit the 5 families in one day. He waited for his mother to die, asked his little brother to come to the lake house and popped him. I watched that movie. I like the way The Godfather moves.
Listen closely, and it's more than cosplay. He maps real moves to the movie, seed his chairman claim, premiere edited cuts from his docu-series, tease a diss track, and funnel content to a platform he says he's acquiring. Each piece is a scene in a larger play designed to make him look inevitable. That's why he keeps saying, trades tomorrow, 25 episodes, bosses take losses next week. It's less about debate and more about momentum. Feed the timeline with set pieces until the audience treats the ending as a foregone conclusion.
He played broke, and then he killed the 5 families. So if you notice, I got up there with a patch like Ace. I wanted to look weak. I wore an extra big shirt so I looked fat. You understand what I wanted y'all to bomb on me because I knew all these announcements were coming. Now, anybody else makes an announcement, they're great. But if Dame Dash, it's a little thing, you're not the chairman. Like, I am. I'm about to buy this shit. You understand what I'm saying? I don't play. I've been trying to buy Revolt for 2 years.
But here's the twist in the script. Michael didn't just posture, he closed loops. If Dame's really running the Corleone play, the onus is on him to show ink, contracts, programming grids, actual air dates. Because once your opponents mock the paperwork, the Godfather aura doesn't hold without a body on the floor. That's why Cam and Mace's best counter won't be a joke. It will be a calendar. If they pull a date-stamped contradiction, Dame's pathway to acquire morphs from power move into punchline. And in Harlem, you only get to call yourself boss if the credits roll your way. So chapter 4 plants a flag. Dame's telling you the rules of the movie he thinks he's in. Either he really executes the 5 families montage, programming live on Revolt, diss record out, paid in full episodes aired, or Cam and Mace flip his own metaphor on him. Harlem is watching to see who leaves the table smiling. One more thing about the movie Dame thinks he's living in. In his telling, real power is measured by what you don't owe. He keeps saying it. No debt, family office, do it with your own money. That doctrine is the spine of the Godfather talk. If you owe nobody, nobody can make you bow. Tie that to a media platform, and you've got his thesis in one sentence. Control the channel, control the myth. So when he christens Cam Fredo, he's not just clowning, he's issuing a warning. In that film, Fredo's undoing isn't that he's weak, it's that he mistakes proximity for power. Dame is daring Cam and Mace to prove they're Michael, to build something they own, not something borrowed. Because if the next chapter shows Dame's show actually airing where he says it will, while Cam and Mace only cook reactions, the metaphor sticks, and so does the stain. Dame doesn't dodge the math, he drags it onto the table. A decade of lawsuits, liens, and a tax bill big enough to drown anyone who tried to pay it off with a paycheck. He frames chapter 7 not as a confession, but as a reset switch, saying you can't grind a $20 million hole into flat ground by clocking in. In his telling, the move wasn't about optics, it was about oxygen. If every launch gets muddy waters letters, the only way to move is to call time on the court game and reallocate energy back to building.
So the bottom line is, I filed because I was going to pay the government, but when you owe $20 million, you can't pay $20 million from a job.
Listen to his logic chain, and you hear a street cadence applied to corporate weather. Investors hate smoke, lawsuits create smoke, and smoke kills deals even when the case is flimsy. Dame says one person could file in different courts around the country and force him to spend 6 figures just to swat the flies, win or lose. Filing wipes the slate of those tactics, he argues, so business plans can breathe again. Whether you rate that as strategy or spin depends on how you view bankruptcy itself. Taboo or tool.
The government wasn't tripping because that's what I was trying to do. Because every dollar that I put into business and pay people, they're paying taxes on that money. So they getting their money, they wasn't bothering me. But this dude was messing with the family office and I can't have that. So that's why I filed, so I could make these announcements and he can't call Paramount or Simon Schuster and hit me with any more lawsuits, because each one of these lawsuits cost at least, $160,000, $200,000. Just every time he would file in another place, it would cost me a certain amount of money to fight it.
There's also a tone shift here. The Breakfast Club clash is theater. This is arithmetic. It's the same Dame, but the microphone is different. Fewer interruptions, more explanations. He taps the longest running fault line in hip-hop business debates. Pride versus paper. Does it hurt to say bankruptcy out loud? Maybe. Does it restore optionality when lawyers turn your calendar into a cost center? That's the argument he's pushing. And because Harlem is watching, he wraps it in a wager. Judge me on execution execution after the filing, not on ego before it. If the next scenes show budgets, episodes, and distribution instead of docket numbers, the move retrofits from scandal to blueprint. Now he shifts from survival to doctrine. Dame's creed is simple and deliberately provocative. If a billionaire holds a massive loan and he holds none, he says he has more money. To corporate ears, that's backwards. Leverage is a growth tool, not a scarlet letter. But to Dame, loans are leashes. Whoever funds you can yank. Whoever can yank you can make you bow. The only permanent antidote is autonomy, and autonomy costs cash.
I have no debt. So if a billionaire has $150 million of debt and I have none, I got more money. I have no debt. Now this is what happens. And people wonder, and this is why I got out the music business. The only way to really, because that's how they keep controlling you, by giving you more money. The more money they give you, the more control they have over you. So somebody gives you $150 million, you have to do whatever they tell you to do until you work that off and you lose all your power. I don't want that debt. I don't care. You're not going to loan me $200 million to do a company that's probably not going to work out so that you could tell me what to do for a certain amount of years. That's what independence is. Real power is having your own money, not other people's money.
This is where the revolt talk connects to the filing talk. To Dame, pathway to acquire isn't a humble brag. It's the centerpiece. Own the pipeline, and you don't have to beg for slots. Build the show, and you don't have to ask for a look. Family office, not label. Your masters, not someone else's catalog. Yes, it's romantic, and yes, it's risky. But every time he repeats the line about debt, he's drawing a border around his identity. Better to fly smaller with no strings than to balloon on borrowed helium.
I don't have no debt. Now, the family office pays their taxes. And I'm not even allowed to talk about the family office. I signed the NDA without permission. But I think I know the owner, so I should be all right, I hope. But the family office might have just paid $500,000, $600,000 worth of taxes.
There's a rub he never quite concedes, and that's where Cam and Mace live: scale. If independence can't match what a network machine can do for distribution, then this philosophy only wins if the content overperforms, which is precisely why he keeps promising drops, documentaries, episodes, all on a platform he says he's tied to. If those things arrive on schedule, the no-debt gospel stops sounding like a sermon and starts reading like receipts. If they don't, the doctrine becomes a very loud vow, one his rivals will quote back to him every time they trend. Dame is too seasoned to leave a vacuum. He previews a diss and then actually tees it up in the room, introducing a record that swings at both 50 and Cam. It's spectacle, part trolling, part time capsule, part warning shot. The message behind the music is the point. I'm not debating you, I'm narrating you.
Can I finish? A diss record for 50 and Cam by Nicolette. Y'all can hear, I'm gonna play it for you before we leave.
Then he goes one louder and frames it like a station ID. Introduce the artist, name the song, plant it in people's heads as the last thing they hear before the show bumps.
Hey you guys, I'm Nikki Licky, and this is Checkmate, a diss track to 50 Cent and Cameron.
On the other side, Cam and Mace aren't exactly whispering. They poke holes in Dame's chairman claim, clown the semantics, and dare him to put signatures where his sound bites are. As long as that documentation feels fuzzy, their job is easy. Keep it funny, keep it fast, and let the comment sections carry the narrative. Dame's counter is to drown the jokes with deliverables, air dates, pilots, a slate. Whoever clocks the first indisputable receipt, Cam with ownership paperwork, Dame with programming on the air, wins this round by default. And that takes us back to the car. The image Dame wants front and center. If the Big L night is true the way he tells it, he's arguing that character under pressure predicts staying power in business. Cry in the car, fold in the deal, keep your chin up in the sirens, keep your head up in the storm. It's ruthless logic, and it's exactly the logic this beef is now testing in public. Over the next few weeks, Harlem's going to treat the internet like the checkpoint. Who blinks first? Who looks away? Who keeps both hands on the wheel? Harlem doesn't hand out crowns, it snatches them. Dame says there were 3 bricks and no tears. Cam says he's not the boss of me. A network is either yours or it isn't. A legend is either earned or it's edited. When the next episode hits, one of 2 things will happen. Either paperwork hits the trades and Dame walks into the room he promised, or Cam and Mace walk him back out and lock the door behind him. Either way, somebody's story gets rewritten, and in this city, the edits are permanent.